You go. I'm drinking cacao.
Woo! All right, we're having a cacao party for today's episode of I Needed This Today. And welcome to episode 16?
16.
Woo! Damn! We really did that. 16 episodes. I'm proud. I like it. 16. 4x4. It's a nice even number. If you can't see me, but I just flicked my plait over my shoulder. That's how much sass I have right now from this cacao. Did you know that cacao is very high in magnesium?
Yeah, something I learned today. I did not know that. I needed that today.
Yeah, I needed this magnesium today. So if you're out there and you're feeling stressed and, you know, you're not sleeping well, get some cacao. But make it sacred cacao, because, like, if it's not sacred and conscious, then it won't work. So, yeah.
And make sure it's fagnesium, so you turn gay. Like me. I was never gay until I had fagnesium.
Wow. I feel like only you're allowed to make that joke.
It's the only reason I turned gay, so I could say fag.
Wow, okay, moving on. Look, we've been far too controversial already. Moving on. Last episode, I keep telling you, that's not the one.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see this.
Okay. Last episode, it looks like it's clipping everywhere. Yep. Great. Okay, last episode we talked about problematic artists and whether or not you can still listen to it or consume an artist's art if they are a known abuser or if they have been really harmful or problematic or are some kind of phobic or, you know, just a shitty person essentially. And we had some pretty passionate words on it.
Yeah.
We thought we'd try and, like, argue the other side today, but to be honest, I don't think it's gonna hit.
That's not my truth.
Wow.
We did bring up certain points of argument on the other side throughout it, but we were definitely leaning on the side of, like, separating the art from the artist.
Yeah.
But we sort of... you know, I got a decent amount of messages from people saying, I can't wait for part 2.
Yeah, so we should give it a go. We should give it a red hot go. I mean, look, I have to admit that my heart of hearts, I do believe that it is separate because I say I'm an artist and yes, my art comes through me, but oftentimes the stuff that comes through me, like, it's not mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when I'm creating... I'm a channel, like something's coming through me, and yes, it might come through the lens of my psyche and my perspective and my experiences and my feelings, and it might even feel like it's about this particular moment, but actually it's not. And I think that there's something more mystical about being an artist that's really oftentimes unexplainable. It's transpersonal. Mm-hmm. It's beyond our singular identity. And it's so often not about us. Like, I mean, you know, to use an example, like, okay, R. Kelly.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to bring up.
Right. So R. Kelly, I watched that docu-series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, I was appalled. And I was, like, sitting there in disbelief. Like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, how the fuck did no one in his circle see what was happening and step the fuck in and do something? To me, that is, like... the ultimate fucking I just see that as like community irresponsibility.
Yes.
I'm like, where was the community? Where was the fucking, like, I lost my shit watching that. I was like, I can't believe that this happened. One person's, like, disgusting behavior was supported and backed and hidden, and there were so many people who were, like, helping him to create this, you know, crazy, like, lifestyle where he was essentially grooming young girls. And look, I don't have to go all the way into it.
I don't think we need to spell it out because people
can go and watch it.
Yeah, it's pretty aware, but
yeah,
as you would have heard on the last podcast, I made a playlist
of problematic and cancelled artists.
Yeah, 20 problematic and cancelled artists. Oh, Acacia's howling because there's an ambulance coming past. Can you hear it?
Yeah, oh, I can.
Can everyone else hear it?
That's pretty cute.
Oh.
Does he do that often?
Yeah.
Does he think that's like his pack of wolves in the distance?
Homies, I'm over here. Oh.
He's still howling. He sounds so sad.
Back to it. So I went through and I fucking loved all the songs of all the artists I put in there, but the one I struggled a bit more with was Bump and Grind by R. Kelly.
Yeah, well, you should have put I Believe I Can Fly in. Because I Believe I Can Fly, like, that song has been used for so many, like, transformational events, like the end of graduation, like, you know, anytime you need confidence.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about how many people have probably been extremely moved by that song and probably saved a lot of lives too,
Yeah,
when you think about the
definitely.
message of the song.
Definitely.
Or, like, you know, Michael Jackson, I mean, like, here's another story. But that song, I Believe I Can Fly, like, yes, it came through R. Kelly, who's extremely just, you know, like, definitely needs accountability therapy, like, situation. But that song, it's definitely, to me, like, that song needs to be in the world.
I'm trying to argue the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, but also, like, that song, like,
I know. I
important.
definitely agree. Agree. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to Bump and Grind, is like, I'm trying to say is, you know, on the last podcast, I think we made it very clear that we're pretty good at separating the art from the artist. But when I hear, ain't nothing wrong with a little bump and grind,
Yeah,
it's
or
like,
Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. That was just blatant. That's
and
awful.
nothing more like, but my body.
Yeah, my mind's telling me no.
No, but my body.
So-
Like, listening to that, like,
And then understanding the context.
yeah. It's like a bit like, oh, you know, same with Ignition, just like knowing that he's being attracted to younger kids and he's like, give me a toot toot,
Yeah.
give me a beep beep. It's like, who is that to,
Yeah,
you know?
running train. There's a lot of metaphor in there as well. That's uncomfortable at best.
And even in the percentage, like, I put up a poll before posting the first one and I had 65% said art is art and 35% cannot separate. I put Michael Jackson and 65% Michael Jackson for life, and then 35% said no to Michael Jackson.
How do you say no to Michael Jackson? I don't understand that. I don't understand it.
And I put up J.K. Rowling, and 19% would cancel Harry Potter.
See, that's an interesting thing as well. Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, because with J.K. Rowling, like, I understand, but also I don't know if she's actually physically harmed or abused anybody. Like, maybe I haven't done enough research, but from what I know, she's just got an opinion.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's got a fucking opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, and yeah, she has a position of influence, but from what I can tell, she doesn't, like, in her Harry Potter books, like, it's quite mild. Her art doesn't influence people to hate trans people. So for that, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
You're doing a really bad job of
I know.
arguing the other side.
I'm doing a really, really bad job. But, you know, I will speak personally, like, when it comes to, and I did, you know, mention this on the last episode, when it comes down to people who have wronged me, like, never listen to their art. They're a horrible person. They don't deserve their platform.
Well,
Platform them.
even during the week, someone from our community, last week, I had bought something from someone in our community. We won't name names, but I bought something from someone in our community, and you're like, oh, I'm mad at that person because they had these opinions about trans, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
right.
oh, that's funny. You know, we just did a podcast on it and you're annoyed at this person, you know.
True.
And
Yeah,
you didn't say don't get their products or don't use that product or whatever, but, you know, just speaking to that personal thing. And then even me, I was like, you know, but also at the same time, I was like, they're entitled to their own opinions. Like, I've got to, again, like walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And this is someone that I actually know, and they have things around gender and sexuality that don't align with me, but what they offer into the world is really epic.
valuable.
And I bought some of their products, and And that was great.
Well, that's the thing as well. You know me, like I'm very passionate about particular subjects when it comes to gender, sex, feminism, race. Like I'm quite outspoken about that stuff. And I have people in my close community who are doing really epic work in the world who I think have really problematic views on gender, on feminism. Like a lot of the women who offer any kind of work in the feminine are quite anti-feminism. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like I arc up about that because I'm like, the only reason you can even have a say is because of feminism, and now you're like anti-feminism. Like, come on, you know. So I get arced up about that, but at the same time I gotta remember, like, everyone has an opinion based on their lived experience, which forms their views, their values, their biases, all of that stuff. And also what I always come back to is my personal experience with the person.
Yes.
And if my personal experience with a person is primarily good and has been beneficial and nourishing, I'm not just going to wipe all of that because of some idea or opinion that they have. That might change anyway. And that's where I think as a society we let each other down. For me anyway, I believe that it creates a breeding ground for secrecy and for hiding our true beliefs and thoughts. Because it's like, oh, if I'm going to get called out and cancelled and be called problematic and, you know, get this public shaming, then I just won't say what I actually think and I'll just go along with shit. And like, actually, that's more toxic because then it gets pushed into the shadow. Whereas in a way, it's like, at least if it's out in the open, I know where you stand, we can have a chat about it, we can have discourse, and then it's, you know, it's like it's out there to see. Yeah.
Well, you know, a fascinating thing, like you're saying, around personal experience with the person, I think that's a big thing in society, is just people that have non-inclusive views usually don't have experience with the people that...
That's true.
And for
instance, like they don't know a single trans person, so they're just like, I don't know, I don't care.
Yeah, because that was me once, you know. And for instance, with this person that I bought the thing from that you mentioned earlier, they, in the letter that came with it, changed some of the language that I assume was specifically catered to me. And I was like, cool, because if they have a personal experience with me, you know, and I think that's a part of that, is just like, oh, like this person that sort of ticks this box that previously I might have views and said things that don't align with it. I actually like that person and they just supported my business and supported my product and blah blah blah. Oh, I can see a bit of change in that, you know, like and I don't know their journey, like I don't know, I'm not super close to this person, but that we know each other and we've had some nice moments together. But yeah, I think it does come down to personal experience.
100% agree. And you know, it's so difficult, like, because it's a big, I see it in myself, like this particular person is a friend of mine. You know, the whole reason you bought the product is product.
Bro, you can't say that.
Can I not say that?
Because it leaves too many clues.
But I just wanted to clarify, though, that I don't have, like, even when I spoke to the person, it wasn't like angry. It was like, hey, I just saw this piece of content that you shared, just to let you know it might be offensive to some of your followers. That was it, you know? And so I don't know if that's like, I don't even think it's problematic. It's just like, some people have views that I think, oh, that could be a bit sensitive, could be a bit touchy. And my personal approach is, especially if I know the person, to talk to them directly and just like let them know as much as I can. It's like, hey, just so you know, blah, blah, blah. And if they choose to not respond, then I'll be a bitch about it. No, I'm just kidding. If they choose to not respond, then it's like, I remember, you know, I just put it in my... Look, we can go back and...
Yeah, I'll beep that out, don't worry.
Well, we're not... I didn't drop a name.
Yeah, I know, but someone can go and find out.
I heaps for different
Shut up!
fine.
Anyways.
Beep, 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 beep.
Look, if I'm honest, I don't really want to talk about separating art from the artist anymore.
You're done with it.
Can we talk about something else now?
I mean, we can, sure.
Do you want to keep going on that? I just feel like I'm going to repeat so many things,
All right,
and
cool.
we're not really going to fight the other side. Like,
All right.
We could commit to it, but I'm not going to. Really.
Okay, let's move on. Ding, 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 ding. All right, cool. So,
topics that are alive is... Like, we just did a quick Googling of what's alive in the world, and we talk, there's the Met Gala, the VMAs, 9/11, and Are You OK Day happened recently. And also I feel like another thing to...
hot topics.
And maybe the Are You OK can sort of tie into you watching The Joker for the first time the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And we can talk a bit about The Joker, because...
True.
Do you want to go down that lane? Because
Yeah,
I
I'm
have some
happy
cool
to go
things.
down that lane.
When I watched The Joker first in the movies when it came out however long ago, I still at that point had quite a limited view around mental health, and like was quite like with my work I was like, I don't think I can work with anyone that has any mental health problems, identifies with mental health problems, blah blah
Mental
blah.
illness.
Yeah. And then after watching that I was like, oh, I'm like outcasting, and I know I can actually provide something valuable in this area, and it gave me such a great new lens into like this is what happens when you continue to outcast people with mental illness. And I was never like trying to outcast, but I was just like I just felt like I wasn't equipped to do it, but after watching that it's like now I want to be equipped. And now I have people that identify with having mental health problems,
Mental illness. Yeah, I think it's important to just say the word, like mental illness.
Yeah, I'm not trying to avoid that word. It's just what's coming out of my mouth.
Sure.
Mental illness, that people identify in my containers with that, and part of the responsibility, like part of the influence and the plunging me into that area was that movie, The Joker.
I hear that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, this opens a whole can of worms for me. It really does, because, wow, there's so much. I'm like, where do I start? I think there is a duty of care as a practitioner to know that you are able to hold space for someone who has, severe trauma that results in mental illness. And mental illness, like just dissolving the stigma. Like I personally believe everyone has some degree of
100%.
Mental disorder, or to varying degrees. But I think that there's so many different angles as well, because some people believe that mental illness or mental disorder is purely chemical, like it could be hereditary, and it could just be some genetic thing activated, and now you have whatever, bipolar or schizophrenia or whatever. And some people think that it's trauma, and some people think it's a combination, and whatever, and it could be you had a bad mushroom trip and now you're fucked.
Or you could have hit your head at a young age.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be so many different things. But I think for me, in the past, I've definitely erred on the side of caution for a few different reasons. One is because I'm often wary when people are really identified with their diagnosis, because my approach to healing or to spiritual work or personal development is to liberate yourself from bindings, like to liberate yourself from any like self-imposed or societally imposed restrictions on the freeness of your spirit, of who you are. And I have noticed that oftentimes it's really difficult to get wins for a client or to help them grow if they really find that diagnosis, like if they're very strongly identified with it. And it's not to judge anyone. Like, I understand sometimes a diagnosis can be super, like, liberating and can actually...
oh, fuck, this is what this thing is that I've been questioning for so long.
Can feel really relieving to people to get that affirmation that, like, oh, this is why things are so hard for me, you know, because of this. So I get that. At the same time, like, I just think that it can also be really restricting for people.
Yes.
So that's, like, one thing. And then the other thing is also... you know, there are like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the mental illness can be really severe in its manifestation, and people can have, you know, like really challenging manifestations that I might not be equipped to deal with.
Of course, yes.
And I don't want to put my business at risk.
Yes.
There's that. And I also don't want to put my clients' health at risk by taking on somebody who I don't really feel equipped to help. And another reason for me personally is that if a person is working with a psychiatrist and they, have medications involved and all of that stuff, and I don't know who the psychiatrist is, and I don't have like a line to communicate, you know, sometimes when you're doing deep spiritual work, shit pops open, and I don't know what's doing what. That's why when I take people through my programs, I'm like, no drugs, like, because I want to know, I want to be able to track their change and their transformation and know, like, what is causing the change.
Yeah.
So that's like my personal philosophy. You know, I'm a lot more rigid about this stuff than, than some other people are. That's because I like to know that the container that I'm holding is creating this change and transformation. And if anything kind of happens, I can safely navigate or guide a person through that. At the same time, like, I am chilling out a bit as well. You know, like, if a client wants to do a mushroom journey, I'll feel into it. And if it feels like it's the right thing to do, then, you know, that's cool. But yeah, anyway, that's my little ramble on that shit.
Cool.
Going back to the Joker.
There's a few points of what you said that I want to speak to. So around identifying with the mental illness is, you know, I see different frames of that, and a way that I want to draw a parallel is with when I did the Curious Conversations podcast on disability and chronic illness, is I sort of put that in a similar bag in the manner of, like, Pia, Samantha and Julia identify with their disability and chronic illness, but not in a way of, like, this holds me down. It's like, no, this is who I am, and I'm not just stuck in the Western way of seeing these illnesses or disabilities. I am also bringing in Eastern work and like seeing this as a gift and something that is personal to me. And I believe, you know, I see certain people that are out there doing the work that have, like, certain mental illnesses or battle with certain mental health problems that have actually become a big part of their brand and a big part of their, like, coaching and healing and message that a big community really are drawn to and get a lot of, like, reframing around, like, this isn't, there's not something wrong with you, you know, this is just, and like how you're saying, feeling like everyone has some kind of mental illness to an extent. I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone in that. Wrong as in bad, you are less human. And same with disability, same with chronic illness, same with so many things. But society has definitely created that in the world. You know, and that's the same with queerness, same with race, same with, you know, we all go, all these different things go through different forms of societal dogmas. I find it really powerful to reframe that, and I've just had clients that have identified with mental illness to the point where it's like dragging them down. It makes them feel less as a person, and eventually popping out the other side. And to me, that's so rewarding. And same, because I have in my questionnaire, do you have any mental health issues? Do you do any drugs, whether like recreational or prescription? And I used to be very rigid around it, but even with drugs, like I've always with mine you know, if you have a mushroom ceremony or like anything that is a part of your practice and you're not abusing it or you relying on it, I'm okay with that. But even, you know, as of recent, I've been taking on people that alcoholics, people that are addicted to weed, and without me focusing on it whatsoever, a majority of them have become sober. And just ruling them out previously, you know, is what I needed to do, and I didn't think I was equipped for it, and I had my judgments for sure. And because I just wanted the best results possible, you know, someone that's clear and sober, it's easier to be in getting to exactly what they want, because when something is an addiction, it's a mask for the thing, so to get through that mask is hard. But just seeing the results, like a recent client that has an addiction, like the most tears I've had on like reoccurring in myself, seeing the results that they're getting. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so grateful that I actually like followed this person up. It wasn't that they reached out to me. I was like, hey, you, like, I can see that there's something. And I'm so glad I followed it up and actually made it happen for that person rather than reaching out to me, which I usually also don't do. I don't follow people up and try and create it with them, but I just had this feeling with this person, and I was like, I'm just going to keep, this is like 4 years in the making, trying to get this person to jump in with me. You know, and it wasn't constant, like once a year, hey, checking in.
How you doing?
How you doing? And it was this time, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to do it, you know? And I was just so glad. And I think that's, really opened up for me the results. And, you know, it's been a headache at times as well with this person, like keeping them accountable, but just the results is just...
Awesome.
Sometimes it's bigger than some people that I get, because they're like, they are at such a lower point in their life or how they feel that there's so much room to go higher.
Yeah, I see that for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think it's like so much of the work we do is built on rapport, you know, which is like how much connection and trust you have with the person that you're working with. And, you know, I know that, I definitely have taken on clients who have had like major issues, you know, like major mental instability, various diagnoses, and I've like had to kind of give like extra energetic support, you know, and really being aware to track like how they're going, you know, how their nervous system is handling things, and sometimes going a lot slower as well, just to make sure that, you know, everything's kind of integrating nicely. And if they have a team of other practitioners, kind of making sure everyone's across what we're doing. And I think like, well, what I want for society anyway is I want everyone to have access to really great quality support, you know, in all areas. And I don't think that I'm the right practitioner for everybody, you know, and I've got to be humble enough to say that. But definitely watching The Joker it's like heartbreaking to see the way that so many people just fall through the cracks in terms of society's healthcare and society's, you know, systems and models of like community care. It's just it was heartbreaking to see that, because it's not that hard for that to happen, you know, for those situations to happen. Like, it's not that hard. And, you know, it doesn't matter what country you're in. It's like, America's just, you know, they don't even have Medicare over there. Over here, at least we have, you know, Medicare, and there's certain things we can access. But it happens here too, all the time.
Of course.
And it is, it's like, man, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, like I said. It was pretty heartbreaking to see. And I also resonated with a lot. Like, I felt, and I think everyone watching it, you can feel parts of yourself in him, in his character, and his storyline. And it just felt like And that's one of those things, like, we love those movies where the villain is the hero.
Yeah.
We're just like, yes, like, just because oftentimes those villains are telling the truth. And we love that. We want that. It's just like, fuck, you are showing me what is actually true and real. And yeah, it's destructive and disruptive, but sometimes that's what we want and what we crave the most.
Yeah. Well, ever since a little kid, across all cartoons, all superhero movies, rah. Joker was always my favorite as a kid, and then I love that, you know, I feel like, especially with the Heath Ledger Joker, people really fell in love with the Joker, but then when the Joker got his own movie and, what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix, got, you know, landed that role and just absolutely smashed it.
I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Joaquin anyway. Yes. Anything that he's in, I'm fangirling.
But I feel like a lot of people, you know, Heath Ledger set a really high standard, plus we lost him after that.
Yeah.
So those were big clown shoes to fill.
Big clown shoes to fill. Oh, wow.
See what I did there? But yeah, that identifying with him and seeing the ways, like, you know, you really see him slip through the cracks of society. And like you're saying, like, that humility to know I'm not the practitioner for everyone. I have that, and there's, you know, still people to this day I say no to, or I recommend to someone else, and I think I never just say straight up no to someone. I always recommend to someone else. And that's something I definitely have faith in, is that if it's not me, I know someone that I can send somebody to, because especially in mainstream society, I might be poking a button for you, but it's like psychiatry and psychotherapy, it's not for everyone, and sometimes can be something that continues to make the problem, you know, by certain things that are diagnosed and prescribed. That I love that I have something that is a good meeting between Western and Eastern philosophy of healing that I can offer, and that's what I try and point to other people. And, you know, I'm someone that's seen a psychotherapist and really enjoyed it, and I would return again, but I love to be able to offer something alternative to people, rather than just going, oh, you have this and this, maybe it's best if you stay in the West, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to really like individual practitioners. Like, I've had so many clients who have done years and years of therapy and who've come to me and been like, I feel like all of my years of therapy didn't fucking scratch the surface of what we just cleared in that one session. Like, I'm not making this shit up.
No. I have testimonials that people can read that say the exact same thing. At the same time, I do want to give credit to all the therapy that they've done that has laid a really 100%. Great foundation for us to just come in and drill right into and go, this 100%. Is the thing, you know? Like,
oftentimes they already know their patterns. They already have their frameworks. They have all that stuff, and then you come in.
We just get a silver platter handed to us.
Totally. It's like, all right, cool. So you know all this shit mentally. Now close your eyes and breathe. And they're like, 100%. It's like, let me just test what that emotion is over there. Okay, grief.
Game over.
Totally.
Yeah.
So absolutely. You know, people who have, you know, pretty good self-awareness and have pretty good self-responsibility as frameworks already. Like, that's awesome. You know, because it's going to help us as well. And at the same time, you know, also I think, I'm just going to say it. I think there are a lot of therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists who maybe when they started their practice really cared and were really present, and then after a while just fucking got jaded and they don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I've heard horror stories from
Yes,
people
me too.
about, you know, psychiatrists and psychologists who didn't fucking listen, who don't know how to hold space, who don't know how to develop rapport, who just like sat there and took notes and wrote a prescription, and there was no fucking heart in their work. And I think that is so detrimental for a person. And also, because it's already so stigmatized, sometimes, you know, a client is, or a patient is not going to have enough confidence to shop around for the right therapist. So they're just like, well, my GP sent me to this therapist and that's the only person I've got access to, so I'm going to do it. And they don't get any results or don't get any, you know, benefits. Like, I just watched this story recently of this woman who, like, she was an addict, you know, substance abuse, had terrible loss, terrible trauma. And as part of her, like, rehab program, she got sent to a counselor. And she went on her first day, and she had been sober for however long, 3 months or something. First day, the counselor asked her all these questions. She told the counselor all her problems, and then the hour was up. It's like, all right, cool, your hour's up, see you later. And she just went straight back to using, because it was like
active in her body.
Yeah, you made her talk about all this stuff. You didn't give her any fucking resolve. You didn't make sure that cycle was complete. You didn't give her any tools. Just like open up a can of worms.
And then get you in the feels.
And then leave her. That to me is so fucking irresponsible.
Well, to me, that's a part of, you know, like, I can relate that to just doctors themselves, to nurses, to police officers. A lot of people sign up, not everyone, but a lot of people sign up with the right intentions of, like, I'm going to be that one police officer that does care and brings justice to the world. I'm going to be that nurse that sits and listens and holds the hands. But I know people in all of these fields that are like, I'm worked off my fucking feet. We are understaffed. We, you know, and it's part of this, like, 9-to-5 grind. Also, like, capitalism of, like, we need to make this amount of money, and that's a part of, it's still in the work we do as well. But I just know with myself, for instance, with the spiral is, I have a certain amount of hours that I will do, and it's not 9 to 5, and it's not Monday to Friday. I do 3 days a week, and it's from 11 to 6 p.m. And I set half an hour in between every client minimum. And I also take breaks in between cycles of clients, and sometimes I take massive breaks and I do something else instead. Like, I've found ways, because I can see sometimes at the end, so if this is an 8-week program, near the end, sometimes if I've done it back to back to back, I'm like I'm not as present. I bring that presence forward, like, and I can feel that capacity. And I just know, you know, I've not worked in a high-end job in the, like, Western civilization of, like, a psychiatrist or something, but I could imagine 9 to 5, fucking 20, like, every week, all weeks, you know, you get one holiday or whatever. I'd be fucking sick of hearing about people's problems 24/7 as well. Like, it's just, anyone would get sick of that.
Totally.
And you have your own shit to deal with. Like, you've got to switch it up. You've got to have other things, and you can't just be driven by what society says you have to do, and by paying these bills, and by whatever it is, a standard that is meant to be. I think that's a big part of the problem, is like I don't even know, there's a certain rate, maybe I can Google it as we talk, but, like, psychiatrists have a high suicide rate because they're taking on so much, and they don't have the tool, like, they're not using the tools. It's actually helping people with mental illness is giving them mental illness.
Well, but also because most, you know, traditional psychology is, I mean, you know, we're trained in a modality that looks like it's a very integrative approach. It looks at 5 bodies, right? So you have spiritual, mental, energetic, emotional, and physical. But, you know, most forms of therapy is just psychological. It's just mental. And so energetically, you're not even aware of your bandwidth, your capacity to hold space for people. So you're probably constantly just, like, giving. You don't know if you're taking on other people's energetic stuff. You don't have any self-clearing practices. You don't have any, like, ways to, you know, earth or ground, or, you know, make sure spiritually you're connected and all of that stuff. So I imagine it would be really fucking taxing if you're not aware of what's happening on your other bodies. Over 1 in 4
29% disclosed that they have felt suicidal, and nearly 4% reported that they've made suicide attempts.
4% is a lot. That's 4 out of 100. That's a lot. And that's an actual attempt. Like that's pretty scary. And when you think about it archetypally, most people who become therapists, they hold the archetype of healer, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, the shadow of the healer, like that wounded healer, is like martyr. I want to help everybody. I need to save everybody. I need to rescue everybody. And where does it come from? Oftentimes it comes from our own unhealed wounds.
Yeah, well, therapists, and myself included as a healer, it comes from people that have wounds and have healed them themselves, and now want to give that to other people. And that martyr complex I have to deal with sometimes,
But the thing is, well, hopefully you would hope that you're working on your stuff as you're helping other people, right?
Yes.
Where I think it gets problematic is when, I see it happen a lot. It's like, I want to heal others as a distraction from healing my own shit.
Yeah.
And that does happen a lot. I see that often.
Well, at least, a part of the psychologists and psychotherapists and all these fields of therapy, there is a system built into it due to this, that they have someone that's above them, and they have a weekly check-in with someone to make sure they're in the right place to be doing it. And they have so many strict rules, which is unfortunate. Like my psychotherapist, not my psychotherapist, but a friend of theirs also was offering doing tantric massage for people and wasn't allowed to. They had to choose. The board said one or the other, you know?
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. So people have so much stuff around sex. It's like one of the biggest taboos in society.
But they're meant to be therapists and help people move through the taboos of these things, and then the board says you can't do that. You know?
Well, it's probably, I imagine there's just been so many violations over the years that, it's just easier to just be like, nah, we're not going to do that. No.
Oh, I mean, separate from the therapy practice. I do this and I do this over here, and they're completely separate, not allowed to offer it to their clients that they use as therapy, psychotherapy. Anyways, not super important, but...
Well, that's why there's a lot of trained and qualified psychologists, psychotherapists who don't practice clinically, but they have that, they have their degree, they have, whatever, but they, that maybe they're a spiral practitioner, or they're a kinesiologist, or they're a, tantric, whatever, massage person, and they have that in their bag, but they're not registered to practice in that way anymore because they chose that.
Yeah, they chose something else. And how does that tie into...
So how did we get onto this?
Are you okay?
That's right, the Joker, Are You Okay Day. Yeah, so it was Are You Okay Day the other day. To be honest, this year I felt it was a bit weak. Other years I felt like the campaign was a lot stronger.
Yeah, I didn't really... I have no feed, but I saw on Tim's story that he shared it. And that's all I saw of Are You Okay Day.
I think people are to me anyway, because I've always been like, whatever, Are You Okay Day is fucking stupid. You know, I hate that shit. I hate Valentine's Day, all of it. But I love it, but I also hate it. Because I just think it's commercial bullshit. I just think it's... Anyway, won't go into that, but it was interesting this year to see there really was not much of a hoo-ha about it. And I think it's because people are just like, what a fucking joke. No one's fucking okay right now. What's the point of even asking? What are you going to do if I'm not okay? All the fucking hotlines for, Beyond Blue and whatever are maxed to capacity. Everyone's fucking stressed out of their minds. So many more people are on antidepressants now, and, prescription medication for mental health stuff. So many kids are fucking trying to commit suicide. It's fucking not okay. And it just feels like a joke. To just say, Are you okay day? It's like,
no one's okay. We're fucking locked up. We're sick of this bullshit. 100%.
Yeah, and it's just like, alright, and if I say no, then what? What happens next? As a community and as a society, we don't know how to take care of each other. And this is what makes me so fucking... I'm getting riled up thinking about it.
Get it, girl.
Is because idea of health and our idea of wellness and our idea of vitality is so fucking, the level is right down the bottom now. It's like, it makes me so fucking mad, because I'm like, if we really cared about our well-being and our health and our wellness, then we would actually be prioritizing the things that support that well-being and that health and that wellness. Isolation is not good for anybody's mental health. It just fucking isn't. And yet that's what we have to do now. All right, cool. So there's so many stresses on our health and well-being. And everything that's offered is a band-aid solution. It's not getting to the root problem, which is like Western civilization's obsession with having one of everything and a fence that separates my shit from your shit. To me, that's like the root of all of our unwellness. It's disconnection.
I'm going to offer another side, just to play the devil's advocate polarity, always. Is last night Tim ran a workshop that I was in around embodiment, and we're doing a check-in sort of at the start, and a couple people were like talking about, because around self-touch, self-pleasure, etc., and a couple people were like, people were saying, I'm having a hard time during lockdown, but then other people were like, oh, I am so grateful for lockdown. In my normal life, I was worked off my feet 24/7. I just went too hard, and this has made me really have to reevaluate how I was living, and I've been able to connect in with my body for the first time ever, and reevaluate what is important to me. You know?
Well, that's beautiful that they have.
So isolation has forced them into going, oh, that life I was leading before was putrid. Well,
that's because of capitalism, though. You know what I mean? It's like both problems are, you know, Western societal problems. And so it's like, I can totally understand that. And if you're getting money from the government, you know, to stay home and finally address some of this shit, then fuck, that's great. But for people who... for like young kids, you know, who are struggling, like having to stare at screens all day to do their schoolwork and can't do any sport, can't go hang out with their friends, like it's, you know, it's a lot to deal with.
100%.
And the results show, you know, that majority of society is struggling mentally right now, especially 100%. If you have a small business, you can't, it's fucking hard. So you know, I think even in the case that you're talking about just now, well, it's still an issue.
It's still an issue. I guess what I'm trying to provide is like, I like the polarity of that. I don't want to just lead this into a doomsday podcast. Everyone listening, you're okay as a joke and your life is ruined. So after this podcast, no, I won't say next one.
No, well, what I want, and like I touched on it earlier, is, you know, I mean, fuck, this is why I don't do Western medicine, and you know this about me, and some people will probably beef with me on this. It's my personal choice. I'm not saying everyone has to think like me, but for me, I am not interested in band-aid solutions. In my relationships, like anywhere, like I want to as much as possible, and I'm not always perfect, you know. I still fucking eat KFC nuggets, you know. I love chicken nuggets.
She loves chicken nuggets.
You know that I love chicken nuggets, but when I'm healing, when I'm doing things, I try as much as I can to go deeply under the surface and figure out what the root cause of things is, and address it from that level, because everything is interrelated and everything is interconnected. And you know, these problems are systemic problems that we need to address, like from a systemic standpoint. We can't just kind of go, like, even that, like, yes, cool, pay people to stay home, like that's a great idea, definitely support them, but also like I think it's important to start teaching kids from a young age, like how to fucking live in the world. Like what is health, what is survival, what is living, like what are relationships. Like we need these skills. Instead of teaching a kid fucking trigonometry that maybe like 1 in 100 kids is going to use and go on and become a fucking scientist, the rest are going to be in relationships, figuring out like, why do I fucking keep dating narcissists? Like, you know, why can't I do my taxes? Why can't I fucking make money? Why can't, you know, all of these life problems. And it's like all this stuff, because fuck, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so fuck it, it's out there now. It's like, because we go to school to be taught how to be subservient.
Yes.
We go to school to be taught, okay, you're in school from 9 to 3, 5 days a week, so that when you finish school, you go to uni and you pay money to fucking study. And when you finish, you get a job and you give your life to that job. You sell your labor, like your body, until you turn whatever, 65, and you finally retire. Then you get to live your life.
Yes.
In the meantime, you've worked and studied your health away, your joy away, your vitality away.
Yes.
And I think that is intentional. I think the system is designed like that.
So I'm going to continue playing the devil's advocate. And I agree with everything that you're saying.
No, it's cool. Let's do it.
Is... I want to continue to highlight the side of positivity in a manner of...
No positive vibes on this podcast.
Bad vibes only.
Bad vibes only.
What's the opposite of live, laugh, life, or whatever that one is? Live, laugh, love, laugh, whatever, anyways.
Die, hate,
negative, frown, emo.
Die, hate, frown.
Yes, I've seen people and have clients that have lost businesses, lost houses throughout this situation, throughout this lockdown and COVID, which breaks my fucking heart.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've seen a lot of people start up businesses, leave jobs that they don't want anymore, really evaluate what's important to them. Or like even some of these people that were in this workshop last night is like, they've just started working from home and realized, I have so much more time when I work from home because I'm not just doing fucking nothing to fill the hours, It's like quality over quantity.
Hell yeah.
And, I hope a lot of people don't go fucking back to work and back to offices and, less gentrified society in the manner of like needing office spaces. People don't need to fucking be there. And what I want to push forward is with this like joke of like, are you okay day when everyone's not feeling okay is yes, I agree with this. We need to change this fucking trigonometry and learning about tax. Like, I think everyone here, like you and I, know this. I feel like a majority of people that are listening to this agree with that and rant about that, but to me is always, what are we going to do about it?
Well, 100%. That's why... Sorry, I fully cut you off.
Is what are some practices that we can go, instead of going, are you okay today? Is like, what can we share with people to go, like... Here's something that I know if you use, you will be okay today. Here's some like things that you're going to bring into your life that you're going to embody, integrate that. I know, like, next time I go, are you okay today? No. It's like, have you been doing X, Y, Z, in your life? Let's do that together, whatever it is, like... just that offering of here's something that's a bit more than just asking if you're okay, which asking someone if they're okay is great. And I hope people continue to do that, but what's the next step that we can offer, especially when asking someone are you okay can feel insulting, at this point.
Well, in my post, when I posted about it, I said, like, I was like, it's a fucking joke because not many people are doing okay right now.
Oh, did you post about it?
I did, but then I also said, and also my DMs are open if you want to talk about it. However, I will not enable you to continue to downward spiral. Like, I will hold you accountable to making small changes. Like, I gave a list of things that have helped me in the past. So, I wrote down my list of things. And I said, my DMs are open if you actually want to take responsibility and if you actually want to get supported. Because last year I was not fucking okay. Last year I was fucked for cucked. Like if anyone who's listening to this, I don't know if if you follow my socials, I talk about my shit all the time. Last year I was depressed. Probably one of the most depressed places I've ever been in my life, and experiencing insane amounts of anxiety, and it was a pendulum all day. I'd wake up, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I was like so immobile. I was just lying in bed, scrolling my fucking ass off, and then I'd build up all this anxiety because I was scrolling so much and not doing anything that I wanted to do or said I would do. And then it would go into like this huge depression. And the way that I got out of that was, well, one, I had to decide that I was going to first try everything possible before I could, because I was so close to calling it quits, you know. And I wrote this note. I was like, the only reason that I'm hanging in here is because of my son, because it feels unfair for him. But I know all my friends will be fine. My family, you get over me. Like, people die all the time. I was just like, I was ready to, because I could not find a reason to live anymore. I was like, I don't want to live like this. It feels like shit. I can't possibly continue. But I was like, all right, well, if you really want to die, first, kill the parts of you that are, you know, living this reality.
100%.
So I was like, okay, cool. And I had to it was hard, man. Like, I reached out, and this is the cool thing about me. One of the things that I love about myself so much is that as proud of a person as I am, I've got a massive ego, but also I'm always willing to ask for help. And I think that is my fucking saving grace. I asked so many people for help, and there was shame there for sure. I was like, I'm this fucking coach, I'm this fucking practitioner, I shouldn't be having these problems, I should be the one. And I was still holding space for clients too, you know. I'm still practicing, and meanwhile I'm like, I want to fucking die. Life feels awful right now. So for me, asking for help, and not just from one person, I had to wave that flag constantly. I was like talking to, you know, a traditional Chinese medicine doctor who's my friend Michelle. What up, Michelle? Who you
Michelle
had on your
Patrick,
Michelle.
The Earth Oracle on Instagram, check her out. So the Earth Oracle is all about decolonizing wellness. She's a traditional Chinese medicine doctor and naturopath, like has a bunch of PhDs, like super fucking intelligent and crazy, knows all about 5-element theory in the body. So Michelle was helping me like on a physical and elemental side of things. You were helping me. I had my best friend Atlas. I had Yana. You remember that day that I had that fucking breakdown and I messaged you three? I was like fucked. You're on the way to a gig.
It's on the way to a gig. Like, it was like one of my first gigs back from lockdown, and I had a fucking mental breakdown, like screaming my head off in the car driving to my gig, like crying. It was the worst. So it was like asking for help, because I knew that I couldn't do it alone. I knew that. I didn't have the clarity and the level of consciousness, and I didn't have enough life force, to be honest, to pull myself out of the hole that I was in. So I had to ask for help, and I knew that it wasn't enough, like that one person was helping me. I knew that I needed multiple people, and even though I felt embarrassed and ashamed, I was like, well, this is how I like reasoned it in my mind. I was like, well, shit, if I need like 10 people to help me out of this slump, then I must be a really fucking important person in the world, you know. Maybe I'm here to do something really important, and it's going to take fucking 10 people, you know. If it's going to take 100 people, fuck it. So that was kind of like my reasoning, and also I started to put my discipline in. I had to, because my integrity was fully out. I had no integrity anymore. That's why I felt like shit. So I was like, before I went to sleep, I'd write a list of all the things in the day that I need to improve on, like from that day. And I'd write a list for the next day, all the things that I wanted to do, and I would just like tick them off. And if I didn't tick it off, I would just kind of review it before I went to bed. I'd have to go on daily walks. I had to cut out sugar, like all the known triggers, you know, delete apps from my phone.
I'm trying to write a list here of all the things we're going to do that we're sharing, and you're doing it way too quick all of a sudden. You spent very long on ask for help and wave the flag, and then
the reason why I spent so long on that is because I really think that is the key.
It's so important. So one thing I want to add there is not everyone has an unlimited amount of friends to ask for that. And you know, like Alpha and I say, we are open for conversations, but this is also what we do for work. And I'm not trying to use this as a promotional platform, even though this podcast is a promotion of us, but we do offer the work, and some of you may not be in a position to meet some of the prices that we have.
Totally.
But at the same time, what I would offer for yourself is, can you afford not to do it? And that I know for myself, and I'm pretty sure of you, is yeah, you have sort of a set rate. I only, like, for my payment plans, this is sort of the minimum, but if someone really needs it,
absolutely,
I'm flexible. And the shame of asking, can I pay less a week or a month or whatever, isn't worse than dying.
100%. I'm always like, you know, same with you, I suppose. For me, like, if I believe that I can genuinely help you, if I am sure of that, and you're willing to step in and do the work, we make it work.
We make it work. 100%.
However we need to make it work, we make it work.
100%. So definitely reach out to your friends, to your people. But if you, like, just feel like, you know, you reach out to us, you know, but if it gets to a point where we're like, hey, look, we're actually spending a lot of time with you, and this is what we do for work, we are both flexible in how much it costs and how much, like, you pay per week, month, whatever, in our payment plans.
Totally.
That, like, make it work. That shame, like you were saying, of just asking your friends, 10 people, whatever. Same with money, you know, it's just like, you can't put a price on your life.
It's
you know?
true. It's
your life
true.
is
You
priceless.
are invaluable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
or someone else, you know, it doesn't have to be us.
Yeah, and also, you know, we have some free resources or cheap resources as well. Like, I have the Get Free, which is emotional release techniques and self-clearing. That's like $200, you know, and if you really can't afford $200, talk to me and we'll find a way to make it work. I have a 2-week self-love program, which is super gentle. It's not like crazy, you know, soul exploding, but it's really stabilizing as a program. That's like $55. So we do have resources. I just did an Instagram live yesterday on how to, like, the 5 gateways or 6 gateways even I spoke about to get into your emotional body, to regulate, you know, to soothe your nervous system, how to move emotion. So I think that there are a lot of things that you can access. It's not always a money problem.
Yeah,
that's for
100%.
Sure.
There's free content everywhere that can help you for sure. You know, on my page, on Alpha's page, on so many people's pages. It doesn't have to be us, where there's free content, there's websites, there's hotlines, there's this, that, and this. There's places if you're willing to look.
There's podcasts, there's YouTube videos, there's so many things.
A practice I would like to give around that you're mentioning with scrolling and how that gave you anxiety, and everyone's gonna scroll, you know, like it's a bit harsh to tell, well, delete the app, don't scroll, or whatever, because there is a dependency on that. What I would like to recommend for people is when you're scrolling, if there's a person or a post that makes you feel like, oh, that's one of the things that trigger me, upset me, I'm doing comparisons, whatever it is either unfollow, and if it doesn't feel safe to unfollow because they're a friend of yours or a work colleague, is just mute them. And that's something I did for a long time years ago. Every time I'm scrolling, this doesn't feel good in my body, I'm unfollowing or I'm muting this person, until eventually I've muted everyone, even the people I love and I like their content, but I just prefer to choose to go over to their profile. But try and implement that. And it's, you actually, if you believe in, like, energetic stuff, which I'm sure you do if you're here, is like, I felt like a certain cutting of a cord over and over, and like a weight off my shoulder every time I unfollowed someone or muted someone. Just going, oh shit, there was so much weight in that area of my life where with that person or whoever it was, because I'd not really been enjoying their content and it's been upsetting me beyond a point that I realized. Yeah,
I think that's, you know, that's like recognizing the triggers and avoiding them. And you don't have to consume everything that your friends create on social media. You know, you can have boundaries, and I think boundaries don't have to be these huge, big things. Just start small, exactly like what you said. If there's any content that comes your way that you know adds to that anxiety or that, you know, whatever the feelings are, definitely just cut it out. That's the thing. It's actually quite simple sometimes, but when you're in strong emotion, it becomes very complicated and complex. And I always say, you know, truth is simple. If it's not simple, it's not true. And, you know, you can fight me on it, but I hold that and it serves me very well. When I was going through my anxiety, depression, I I was like, what are the known triggers? Sugar is a big one for me.
Yeah.
You know, on a physical level and also just like on an impulse level, because I'm very impulsive. So I knew that I was just overusing sugar to make myself feel better, but then it was taxing my body. And, you know, not to mention like, candida fucking overgrowth, which takes up more of your body's resources. So I really did have to look at my sugar intake. Things like, okay, like, just start eating green vegetables. You know, your body's gonna really appreciate that. Some fruit, drink water. What else did I do? Daily walks. You know, listening to music. Stop listening to sad songs. You know, that was for me. I had to do that. Or sometimes it was the opposite. It was like, watch a sad movie, get the feels out. But yeah, definitely I think a big part is like discipline and integrity and actually loving yourself enough. And it's hard because in those times you don't love yourself. I mean, you do, but you're not really acting like it.
You don't feel like it, even though, you know, if you're here, you love yourself to an extent. And even if you're not, you still love yourself, but there's something going on, which we don't need to go into, but definitely finding those ways back to love. A good one of my clients offered today in our group chat is one person was going through something and they offered a reframe, especially when we're talking about all these things, because sometimes that can be overwhelming. Do I meditate? Do I go to sleep? Do I watch a movie? Do I work? Do I do this? Is they offered, depending on the thing, is like, well, think about yourself, think about each option and think about yourself 6 hours from now, or a day from now, 3 days from now, a week from now, whatever, making choices around what you should do. Think about who you are in the future and what one makes you feel best. Like, if I went and caught up with some friends, or if I did a whole lot more work or whatever it is, how would I feel 6 hours from now? Oh fuck, I'd be pretty exhausted. Or maybe I should have a nap, or maybe I should veg out, or whatever it is, you know? Like feeling into the future yourself if you did that thing, and then go, sometimes that gives you the answer. I thought that was a really good frame to give.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way of like testing in, because, you know, sometimes you're like, I'm going to go nap, but you know that actually the nap is not the thing.
Because if you think about yourself in the future, it's like, I'm going to struggle to get to sleep tonight, and then all that anxiety or whatever is going to come up. So it's like, maybe I need to go for a walk, or whatever it is that you do as a tool is the thing that'll make you feel okay.
You know, this is the thing, like, actually, you know, being a human, I think, is about learning yourself, learning what buttons do what, you know, what stimulus does what, and sort of playing yourself like a puppet almost. I know that sounds, you know, dehumanizing, but in a sense, like, we are just complex machines, our bodies, our minds, how our emotions work and all of that. And I think when we think self-awareness, oftentimes we like just analyze the fuck out of ourselves and just stay on a loop circuit in our minds, and that can be like too much, you know, to be too self-aware. But what I mean by self-awareness is like, just observe. Like, when you do this, how do you feel? When you do that, how do you feel? And it's like, if you can have that kind of observation skills and then just kind of respond accordingly, like, that really is the fucking answer. I know it sounds too simple, but it's like, man, if it's, you know, if it's, for me anyway, like, it's like, truth is simple. And you know when you walk every day, you usually feel really fucking good. When you drink water and eat vegetables, you usually feel really good. So do what you know is good for you, and don't do what you know is not good for you. It's simple, but it's simple,
but it's not, you know, when you're in it, it's not simple anymore. There's a certain feeling in my body right now that we're just giving, like, we're giving good content, but it's sort of boring in a way. Like, for some people,
you already know this shit.
I know this shit. A lot of people know this stuff, and like, I just know, you know, this is a tricky thing in society around being an entertainer and whatnot. Is like, our episodes that people like when we give like fiery content, and I feel our fire sort of
It's
dwindling, and we're at an ember, and it's good to be at ember sometimes, but there's definitely a part of me that's like, we need to like start getting fiery about something.
We need to trash someone's reputation. No, but look, I tell you what feels, for me anyway, alive, because I think healing and, you know, growth, spiritual growth, evolution, all the shit that we're passionate about, I think it is self-responsibility. Yes. But also, I know how difficult it is when you just, for whatever fucking reason, you just can't. You just can't do it. You just don't have the will. And I think what is really helpful is when somebody can reflect to you your value, your importance, your significance in the world. So what I would love, I don't know if this feels alive for you, but like if you're out there and you're like, I know this shit, but I just can't do it. Like, I want to tell you that you are actually worth it. You are actually important enough to fight for, you know, your well-being, your health, your spiritual freedom. It is important enough, and it's not selfish to put yourself first, and it's not selfish to ask for help and to really allow yourself to be supported. In fact, it's a beautiful service when you let people love you, when you let people help you, when you let people support you. When you do those things, the world is benefited by it. And I know it's difficult to hear, especially if you're already feeling really tender, really fragile, but that's what I'm feeling fired up about right now, is to remind you that you are just as fucking important as anybody else that you think is important in the world. You are just as important, and I'm fiery because I mean it.
Yeah. I get fiery about that selfish there. I was having a conversation today with someone, and like, someone called me selfish. I know I'm selfish, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, guess what? I'm selfish, you know, and that's what I try and teach a lot of my clients is start being fucking selfish. Take care of yourself, put yourself first. Someone, again, I'm going back to my clients, really smashed it today. They helped someone else through it, and I just sat and watched. But one of them shared this quote, I'm just going to pull up, that really is in the line of this. It says, every time you're given a choice between disappointing someone else and disappointing yourself, your duty is to disappoint that someone else.
Woo, your duty.
Your duty. Your job throughout your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. What's Glennon Doyle?
Glennon Doyle's great. She's a great author, super awesome, from the book Untamed, yeah?
Yeah, that was from the book Untamed.
Hell yeah. So one of my clients taught me something really beautiful as well. It was, you know, we were doing level 3 stuff, and this client was just like, fuck yeah, I love being selfish, but I call it self-full.
Self-full,
And I really love that reframe. You know, self-full is like to actually fill yourself and to make yourself important enough that you will do the things that you know are good and nourishing and like beneficial for you. It's a fucking huge service for the world as well.
Yeah.
You know, all the stereotypical cliche things of like, you can't give from an empty cup, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's actually true. The more vital and nourishing you are, the better it is for the people around you. And I think it's that paradox, right? When your self-worth is so low, you almost can't believe that you're worthy enough.
100%.
So it's really difficult, but at the same time, you know, I think sometimes, you got to do it to believe it.
Yeah, and, you know, around that selfishness is one of the best frames is like a lot of people like that are in this situation that fucking feel so down and they need some assistance outside are usually people that would be willing to give it to someone else.
100%.
And it's time that you be selfish and go, hey, I need help. And knowing, just always remind yourself that you do give, that you do hold space for others, that all you want to do is help others. And sometimes when you're focusing on someone else as well, so often you're not focusing on yourself, and that is actually quite selfish, is that you're actually putting someone else first and letting yourself deteriorate and that you're not the best person to show up for that other person anymore. And that's a selfish act to think you can help someone else when you're not willing to be helped by someone else.
Yeah. You know, it's a vulnerable act to ask for help, but it's also, it's a gift to allow someone to help you as well. Because we all, I think it's the best part of human nature, really. The fact that we love helping people, you know, like we do love it. And I think that's the thing that our souls want more than anything, is to feel like, my existence is helpful, is useful, is like it's meaningful, that I helped someone, that I gave something. So when you allow someone to help you, it's a gift that you're giving them as well. You know, not letting people help you, it's a disservice to them, it's hurtful.
And at the same time, I believe a lot of us want to help because we want the same in return. You know, I'm going to do what I wish someone would do for me.
Yes.
But sometimes you're not open to that. You know, you're rejecting it, and you're like, no, I'm good. Let me help you. And it's like, hey, remember, part of the reason why you're trying to help people is because you really want someone to help you with that same thing, and you've actually got to be willing to receive it.
That's so true. I'm fucking guilty of that. You know, like, just to be, you know, candid for a minute. You know, I've been dating this year. It's going off, having dating adventures. I am a chronic overgiver in dating anyway, in just dating. Like, I will give and try and impress and, you know, really fucking, like, just go above and beyond for a person. And I love it. I fucking love giving. I love being devotional. I love being generous. You know that about me. I love it. And also, there is a part of me that's, like, secretly like, fuck, I wish someone would do this for me. Fuck, I really wish that somebody would fucking show up for me the way I show up for them. And at the same time, I know that I cannot fucking receive it. It's way too vulnerable for me to open myself up to that kind of level of generosity. So I push it away by just giving even more. It's like, I'll just say, nah, I'll just keep giving to you. And I don't actually allow anyone because energetically it's like, nah, I can't possibly. And I only clocked it, like, I mean, I clocked it a few times, but then I was talking to a friend yesterday who was telling me a story about her relationship and some shit that she was going through. And she was like, and they didn't show up for me, and I specifically asked for this. And I was just like, cool, I heard him. And later I was like, hey, I really just want to call you out on this, because I know you say that you wanted it, but if you're really honest, were you actually fully open to receiving it? Or did you just want to affirm your story that nobody ever shows up for you in the way that you need them to?
Like, in my relationship, sometimes, you know, like, I'm quite prone, I love a lot of communication in my relationship, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish he'd message me first or whatever. But sometimes I'm just not giving a fucking chance. Like, I wake up, being message you, and it's like, oh, you never message first. It's like, well, I wake up earlier or whatever, you know, and not just in relationships altogether. And even a slice of that, you know, and when I do, I wait and then I get the message or whatever. And it's just like, that's such a small version of receiving. Where else is that happening in life, you know? And, you know, that's to me what, you know, a slice of the pie with Fight Music is how it birthed and how it demised the record label that I ran and you assigned to it. One point was I was such a good supporter in supporting artists, because all I wanted to do was to be able to express my artist, but I had so much blockage around it. And it was a portal to help me develop my artist and learn and whatnot. But then near the end, a part of the reason why it broke up, I was like, I can't sit here and focus on everyone else's artists. I need to give to my own artists. And there was conflicts within the business and within the system of it all, that me wanting to express more wasn't okay with the business overall. So that is a piece of the pie of why that fell apart, but also why it came to be, you know? And that was, willing to receive, right? But I was just giving this artist, this artist, I'm going to help them become a star, blah, blah, blah. And then when my star started kicking in, there wasn't as much room for the label.
Yeah. I think that's one of, like, slight tangent, but also kind of related. I think that's one of the scariest things about having change or growth as a top value. Like, you are a person who, probably out of all my friends, you're the person who changes the most, like, rapidly. You know? But that's because it's a top value for you. You're like, change, when you journey something, you fucking go deep into it. It's like, I'm in shaman mystic mode now, and I'm like all the fucking practices, and now I'm in, like, I'm being gay mode, and you'll do all the things, you know, I'm doing my therapy mode or whatever thing you're in. Now you're like fucking working out mode. And I know, you know, because for the last few years I've been dating people with similar values to me, right? So for us it's normal. Change, transformation, it's like, it's just how every fucking 3 months our reality is completely different. But for most people not doing quote unquote the work, that's really fucking destabilizing.
Yeah.
You know, I've been dating people who don't do any fucking personal development, and I'm just like, you must think I'm crazy.
Well, this is a good, like the comedians do, how they bring it all the way back around, is is to people that don't do the same kind of work as us, and there's this sort of like viewing, there's a certain judgment, I'll speak for myself, of like, oh, I see a certain mental illness, I'll project onto people that aren't doing the work and stuck in this certain system. And certain people watch me and my life that they're like, I think there might be something mentally ill with Paisley, because his personality is all over the place. He's changing constantly. He's this, that, and this. It's like
you could definitely diagnose that as
bipolar or something like that, you know, like, and it's just, we all have different and I can see that when I'm doing that, there's times where I don't see it, and then eventually I'm like, okay, I'm judging this person just because their values are different and they're in different places in their life.
Or their brain is different.
The way that they're raised and what interests them and blah, blah, blah. Like, that we can be viewed as the mentally ill people, and there's, you know, like, for instance, something like bipolar, there's some truth to that, you know, like we're saying, that everyone has a certain degree of mental illness, and like something both you and I, and we've talked about on podcasts before, that we identify to a certain extent, is narcissism is a mental illness, and I feel like both of us have a both healthy and unhealthy degree of that, you know, like this podcast wouldn't be alive if we weren't willing to be narcissistic enough to go, hey, listen to us talk about ourselves once a week for an hour, you know. And look, and like a good thing to identify with that is when you and I were helping people and giving suggestions to help others, I felt the embers go down. Back now when we're talking about ourselves again, the fire is here.
Look, I just want to say on this, and you know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not I'm not a psychologist, I really am talking out my ass when I say this, so that's just a disclaimer. But I do believe that there is no such thing. Oh, man, I'm going to probably get my ass handed to me for saying this.
Cancel yourself quickly, do cancelling ritual.
It's the weekly cancel myself ritual. No, I do believe that there is no such thing as a neurotypical person. I don't believe it. I don't believe that there's such thing as a purely sane person. I just think that, everybody is fucking unique. Every brain is unique. Every mind is unique. Every soul is unique. Every expression of life is unique. Even if it's the same, like if you look at fucking plants, you know, for example, like it might be the same subspecies. It might be all strawberries or whatever, but every strawberry is fucking different. You know? If you eat one strawberry, you eat the next one, it's not going to taste exactly the same. It's not going to be the same shape. So diversity is already an inherent expression of life. We are all fucking different. Nobody has a fucking perfect normal brain or, you know, mental health condition. Having said that, I also think that there are varying degrees of trauma that manifest in different ways. And I think that is definitely, and you know, privilege plays into this as well, the way you're raised in different things. Absolutely, that's an issue as well. And yes, for sure, like genetic predisposition to certain things, I think that's a factor. But I really just think like no one is fucking neurotypical. I think everyone has some degree of variation. I think that's how we are as humans.
Yeah, and that's a thing, that's a view and a perspective that both you and I have in the world that I want to, you know, because for some people that might be triggering, right? But
Totally.
I want to like copy and paste that onto gender, because that's something we talk about a lot, is like we both believe there isn't just male and female or woman and man, that gender and sex is a spectrum.
Yeah, it's varied.
It's varied, and same with like ethnicity, is like your ethnic background isn't the same as another Indonesian or South African person. Like there's different ways that people have bred and connected over the years, that we come from all different places. It's like your brain, your cock, your sex, your pussy, your this, your that, like your skin color, everything is on a spectrum. And like I think a way to frame it is no one is perfectly neurotypical. Like there's not one person or a group of people that are the perfect version of that. No one's a perfect male specimen, a female specimen, whatever, or like an Australian, an English specimen, an African specimen, whatever it is. But there is certain privileges for sure that you get on this spectrum.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I can't disagree with that, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, subject of race. We hopefully will know race is a construct. It's a social construct. It was a made up thing to categorize people because they wanted to obviously, you know, communicate that whiteness is better, is normal, is superior, is, you know, all of this stuff. But we know that race is actually a construct. For sure, you can check people's ethnicities, right? And you can have a look and see DNA levels, like where people have come from or whatever. You can have a look at that, but it's not their race. Whereas, you know, I feel like that's the difference between sex and gender as well. I think, yes, you can also... I don't think it would be accurate to say that a person with like, you know, XY chromosomes and this particular genitalia is the same as a person with, you know, this. It's like, that's ridiculous. You also have to be smart enough to know that certain bodies share similarities and we can categorize those particular types of bodies. There are certain types of people...
I need to wait. That wasn't a wee shake.
Like, woo, what's going on? Yeah, go wee if you want.
I feel like we should. We've been for an hour now. I feel like we should hit final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts. Final thoughts. Fuck. We went all over the fucking shop.
We went everywhere. We went from the part 2 of artists, separating art from artists, to Are You Okay, to the Joker, and to mental illness, to the spectrum of absolutely everything. And what are your final thoughts on that?
My final thoughts is... Wow. Wow. What a wonder this world is. No, I think categorization is helpful. But I don't think that the labels that we use for categorization are set in stone. And
they're not cement.
Yeah, they're not cement. And I think like...
Or even cement can be broken with a sledgehammer.
Exactly. There's that too. You know, like I'll go so far as to say God is a human construct. You know, because humans define what God is.
Yes.
You know, so for me, I'm just like, everything's a fucking construct, you know, but yeah, we need these categories, these labels to understand things, and yeah, they can keep changing and evolving. For me, what I'm most passionate about in myself and in my personal work is looking at where my own charge is, where my own limitations are, where my own personal, like, what's the word I'm looking for, like, biases, conditioning is, triggers, traumas, and working on that.
Yes.
And I don't need to I don't need to like force anyone else to do that work. I'm doing that on myself because what I'm looking for is more personal liberation and a closer relationship with life itself. So for me, like, that's what I'm focused on. And if I learn some shit on the way that benefits someone else, fuck yeah. That's mad.
Nice. My final thoughts are, as always, take everything we've said with a grain of salt.
No, with like $10 salt for this family.
$10 salt for this family, also known as a Malden salt. And, like, I love Are You Okay Day, but just for this moment, let's throw it in the bin and say, like, everyone that's listening, there's a part of you, doesn't mean all of you, that is not okay in this moment, and I hope that you can just do one thing off the back of this, and it doesn't even have to be one thing we've told you, but it might be one thing that you're inspired to do off the back of this that may make you more okay, or even better, joyful, happy, whatever it is, that I would love for you to just go action that, whatever it is, and that'll be the thing you needed today.
One small thing. This is what I needed today. And I think the title of this podcast episode should definitely be Death, Frown, Hate.
Death, Frown, Hate. Done.